You walk into a room, stop in the middle of the floor, and suddenly realize you have absolutely no idea why you entered. It feels like a fog has descended, wiping the slate of your short term memory clean in an instant, leaving you standing there feeling frustrated and perhaps a little frightened. We often laugh these moments off as senior moments, harmless blips on the radar of aging, but biologically, something much more significant is happening beneath the surface of your skull. Your brain is an energy ravenous machine, consuming 20% of your body's total energy. And like any high performance engine, it requires very specific fuel to prevent the gears from grinding to a halt. For years, we were told that brain decline was inevitable, a slow, unstoppable slide into forgetfulness that kicks in the moment we hit 65. That is a fundamental misunderstanding of human biology. The hidden culprit isn't just the passage of time. It is a microscopic starvation of the neurons that facilitate every thought, memory, and movement you make. When these neurons lack specific micronutrients, their protective coatings fray, their signals slow down, and the connections that form your memories begin to snap. But here is the promise I want to make to you right now. This process is not entirely out of your control. By understanding the specific chemistry your brain is crying out for, you can build a fortress around your cognitive health. In this discussion, we are going to walk through the 7 most critical vitamins backed by hard science that can act as a shield for your aging brain cells. By the end of this, you will have a clear, actionable roadmap to sharpening your mind and protecting your independence. Before we dive into the science of saving your synapses, I want to invite you to join our community here. If you are looking for the kind of senior health tips that go deeper than the standard advice, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. We are building a space where we prioritize longevity and vitality. And I'm curious, where are you tuning in from today? Let me know in the comments below. It is always encouraging to see how far our message of health is reaching. Now, let's begin with the first and perhaps most critical nutrient on our list, the one I call the guardian of the nervous system. Number 1 is vitamin B12. You might know it for energy, but its role in the brain is far more structural and profound. Imagine your nerves are like electrical wires running through the walls of your house. For those wires to conduct electricity safely and fast, they need a rubber insulation coating. In your brain, this coating is a fatty substance called myelin, and vitamin B12 is the factory manager responsible for producing and repairing it. When B12 levels drop, that myelin sheath begins to degrade, leading to what we call demyelination, which essentially causes a short circuit in your brain's communication network. The science on this is incredibly stark. A landmark study published in the journal Times Neurology Times examined the brain volume of seniors and found that those with lower levels of vitamin B12 markers were significantly more likely to have smaller brain volumes. Specifically, the researchers noted that low B12 status was associated with a greater rate of brain atrophy, literally, the shrinking of the brain over a period of years. It's a terrifying thought. Imagining your brain physically withering away simply because of a missing vitamin, but it happens because B12 is also responsible for breaking down a harmful amino acid called homocysteine. When B12 is low, homocysteine rises, and high homocysteine is toxic to neurons, inciting inflammation and cell death. So picture this. Without B12, your brain is like a city where the power lines are fraying and the garbage collectors have gone on strike. The signals get slower, the noise gets louder, and eventually the lights start flickering out. The tragedy is that as we age, our stomach acid weakens, making it much harder to absorb B12 from food. You could be eating plenty of meat and eggs, yet still be starving your brain. The actionable takeaway here is to not assume your levels are fine. Ask your doctor for a simple blood test for B12 and methylmalonic acid. If you are on the lower end of the range, consider a high-quality methylated B12 supplement, often listed as methylcobalamin, which is easier for the aging body to utilize than the synthetic cyanocobalamin. Moving smoothly to the next vital player in our cognitive defense strategy, number 2 is the sunshine Neuro-Steroid vitamin D3. We used to think of vitamin D strictly in terms of bone health, preventing rickets and osteoporosis. But in the last decade, the neurological community has undergone a massive paradigm shift. We now understand that vitamin D is technically a hormone, not just a vitamin, and your brain is absolutely covered in vitamin D receptors, particularly in the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the brain's command center for learning and memory formation. It is the librarian that files away your memories of your grandchildren's names and where you left your keys. When you don't have enough vitamin D, that librarian goes on break. A massive study conducted by the University of Exeter Medical School followed over 1,600 adults aged 65 and older and shattered the idea that this deficiency is minor. They found that participants who were moderately deficient in vitamin D had a 53% increased risk of developing all-cause dementia, and those who were severely deficient saw that risk skyrocket to 125%. Let that sink in for a moment. A simple deficiency in a vitamin you can get from sunlight or a pill could more than double your risk of losing your cognitive faculties. Imagine your brain cells are like little seedlings in a garden. Vitamin D acts like the sun and water that signals them to grow and branch out. Without it, the garden withers. The problem is, as we get older, our skin becomes less efficient at converting sunlight into vitamin D, and we tend to spend more time indoors. You might look in the mirror and see healthy skin, but underneath, your neurosteroid levels could be tanking. The fix here is straightforward, but requires consistency. You need to get your 25-hydroxy vitamin D levels checked. Most functional medicine doctors recommend aiming for a level between 40 and 60 nanograms per milliliter for optimal brain protection. If you are supplementing, remember that vitamin D is fat soluble, so always take it with a meal containing some healthy fats like avocado or olive oil to ensure it actually gets into your system. Next up, we transition to a vitamin that acts as the ultimate cleanup crew for your biological machinery. Number 3 is vitamin E. When your brain burns glucose for energy, it produces exhaust fumes in the form of free radicals. These are unstable molecules that bounce around and damage your cells, a process we call oxidative stress. It is essentially biological rusting. If you leave a bike out in the rain, it rusts. If you leave a brain unprotected from free radicals, it ages rapidly. Vitamin E is the premier antioxidant that patrols the fatty membranes of your brain cells. Remember, your brain is mostly fat and neutralizes these free radicals before they can cause damage. The evidence for vitamin E's protective power is compelling, particularly regarding the progression of cognitive decline. A pivotal study published in Times JAMA Asterisk, the Journal of the American Medical Association, focused on patients with mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease. The researchers found that those receiving high doses of vitamin E, specifically 2,000 international units per day, experienced a significantly slower functional decline compared to the placebo group. The delay in decline was equivalent to keeping these patients independent for an extra 6 months to a year longer than those who didn't take it. That might not sound like forever, but when it means 6 more months of recognizing your loved ones or feeding yourself, it is everything. Visualizing this, think of vitamin E as a fire extinguisher, putting out the little fires of inflammation and oxidation that flare up every time your brain works hard. However, a word of caution is necessary here. Synthetic vitamin E often only contains one type of the vitamin, alpha tocopherol, but nature provides a whole family of them, including gamma tocopherols and tocotrienols. Taking only the synthetic form can sometimes imbalance the system. So the actionable takeaway is to look for mixed tocopherols on the label if you buy a supplement, or better yet, load up on rich dietary sources like almonds, sunflower seeds, and spinach. You want the full spectrum of protection, not just a single isolate. Let's shift gears to a vitamin that works hand in hand with B12 but deserves its own spotlight. Number 4 is vitamin B9, widely known as folate. You might associate folate with pregnancy, but for the aging brain, it is the master of DNA repair and methylation. Methylation is a biochemical process that happens billions of times a second in your body. It's like the on-off switch for your genes and is crucial for producing neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. As we age, our ability to methylate declines, leading to brain fog, low mood, and slower processing speeds. The scientific weight behind folate is heavy. The Times, Rush Memory and Aging Project Times, has provided incredible insights here. In their analysis, they found that older adults with the highest dietary intake of folates had a substantially lower risk of developing Alzheimer's disease compared to those with the lowest intake. Furthermore, a study from the University of Oxford showed that a combination of B vitamins, including a high dose of folate, slowed the rate of brain atrophy in people with mild cognitive impairment by up to 30%. In some participants, the atrophy was slowed by over 50%. We are talking about physically saving brain matter from disappearing. Think of folate as the maintenance crew that repairs the potholes in your brain's highway system. Without it, the roads crumble, your thoughts slows down, and eventually the road becomes impassable. But here is the catch. Many processed foods are fortified with folic acid, a synthetic form that some people, specifically those with the MTHFR gene mutation, cannot process well. This unprocessed folic acid can build up and actually block the receptors. So your actionable advice is to swap processed grains for dark leafy greens like kale and spinach, which are packed with natural folate. If you take a supplement, turn the bottle over and ensure it says methylfolate or 5-MTHF, which is the active form your brain can use immediately. Continuing our journey through the B complex family, we arrive at number 5, vitamin B6. While B12 builds the wires and folate repairs the roads, vitamin B6 is responsible for creating the traffic itself. It is the cofactor required to synthesize the chemical messengers, neurotransmitters that allow brain cells to talk to one another. We are talking about GABA, which calms you down, dopamine, which gives you motivation, and serotonin, which regulates your mood. As we age, levels of inflammation in the body tend to rise, a condition often called inflammaging. Vitamin B6 is rapidly depleted by inflammation, leaving your brain short-handed when it tries to make these vital chemicals. A fascinating study published in the Times American Journal of Clinical Nutrition Times highlighted this connection. The researchers discovered that higher concentrations of vitamin B6 in the blood were associated with better performance on memory tests in aging men. Conversely, deficiency in B6 has been linked to increased irritability, depression, and confusion in the elderly, symptoms we often misdiagnose as just getting old or early dementia, when in reality, it might be a biochemical shortage. Imagine trying to have a telephone conversation, but the signal keeps dropping out because there isn't enough data. That is your brain without B6. You have the thought, but it doesn't quite reach the destination. The data suggests that B6 works synergistically with B12 and folate to lower that toxic homocysteine we talked about earlier. It is a team effort. The takeaway here is to ensure you are getting the active form, pyridoxal 5-phosphate, P5P, especially if you struggle with absorption issues. Foods like poultry, fish, and chickpeas are excellent natural sources to incorporate into your weekly rotation. Now, let's look at a nutrient that is often overlooked in brain health discussions, but is absolutely essential for vascular protection. Number 6 is vitamin K2. Most people know vitamin K1 helps blood clot, but K2 is the traffic cop for calcium. In the aging body, calcium has a nasty habit of ending up where it doesn't belong, like in your arteries and soft tissues, instead of where it does belong, like your bones. When calcium builds up in the tiny blood vessels of the brain, it causes hardening or calcification, which reduces blood flow. Reduced blood flow means less oxygen and fewer nutrients reaching your neurons, a condition that mimics the slow suffocation of brain tissue. The science is emerging and powerful. A study published in the Journal Times Frontiers in Neurology Times found a correlation between lower vitamin K levels and more severe subjective memory complaints in older adults. Furthermore, research involving the dissection of brain tissue has shown that vitamin K2 is involved in the synthesis of sphingolipids, a class of fats that are present in high concentrations in brain cell membranes. These fats are crucial for cellular resilience. Visualize your brain's blood vessels as flexible hoses watering a garden. If they become calcified, they turn into rigid, rusty pipes that can't expand or contract to deliver blood when you need it most. Vitamin K2 produces a protein called matrix GLA protein, which literally scrapes calcium out of these soft tissues. It keeps the hoses flexible. The modern diet is woefully low in K2 because it is found mostly in fermented foods and organ meats, which we don't eat much of anymore. Your actionable tip is to look for a vitamin K2, specifically the MK7 form supplement. Or if you are adventurous, try eating natto fermented soybeans or high quality hard cheeses like Gouda, which naturally contain this brain preserving nutrient. Finally, we arrive at number 7, a heavyweight champion that is technically an antioxidant vitamin, but acts like a shield against the ultimate enemy, time. Number 7 is vitamin C. For the common cold, but in the brain, vitamin C is concentrated at levels far higher than in the rest of the body. Your body prioritizes sending vitamin C to the brain because it is essential for converting dopamine into norepinephrine, a neurotransmitter critical for alertness and attention. But more importantly, vitamin C helps clear out amyloid plaque, the sticky protein clumps that are the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. A study from the Times Journal of Alzheimer's Disease, Times analyzed plasma vitamin C levels and found that cognitively intact subjects had significantly higher concentrations of vitamin C than those with cognitive impairment. The researchers concluded that vitamin C status might be a key determinant in the progression of cognitive decline. It acts as a powerful scavenger, hunting down the oxidative stress produced by high brain activity. Think of your brain like a bustling workshop. As work gets done, sawdust and debris pile up. If you don't sweep it out, the machines get clogged. Vitamin C is the master sweeper. It keeps the workshop floor clean so production can continue. However, vitamin C is water soluble, meaning you pee it out within hours. You cannot store it. This means you need a continuous supply throughout the day. The actionable advice here is not just to take 1 megadose in the morning, which you will mostly excrete, but to include vitamin C rich foods like bell peppers, strawberries, and citrus in every meal to maintain a steady stream of protection for your neurons. Now, I know we have covered a significant amount of ground here. We have walked through the biochemistry of B12, ensuring your nerve insulation stays intact, the hormonal power of vitamin D, protecting your hippocampus, and the antioxidant fire extinguishing capabilities of vitamin E. We discussed how folate repairs your DNA, how B6 keeps the chemical messengers flowing, how K2 ensures your blood vessels remain flexible, and how vitamin C sweeps away the debris of aging. It can feel overwhelming to think about all these different molecules, but I want you to see the beautiful simplicity in it. Your body is resilient. It wants to heal. It wants to maintain those memories of your first car, your wedding day, and your favorite songs. It just needs the raw materials to do the job. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. Start with one change. Maybe tomorrow morning, you add a handful of spinach to your eggs for that folate and vitamin E. Maybe you set a reminder to take a high quality B complex or vitamin D supplement with your lunch. We often accept the narrative that getting older means getting slower, that the fog is just the price of admission for a long life. But the science, the studies from Oxford, Rush University, and Exeter tells a different story. It tells us that much of what we call aging is actually a malnutrition of the brain, and that is something we can fix. You have the power to influence the trajectory of your cognitive health. You have the power to keep the lights on. I want to leave you with this thought. Your independence is the most valuable currency you have. Protecting your brain is not just about remembering crossword puzzle answers. It is about remembering who you are. It is about maintaining the agency to make your own decisions and live life on your own terms. If you found this deep dive helpful, if it gave you a new tool for your health toolkit, please do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps this information reach others who might be struggling in silence, thinking their memory lapses are irreversible. And I have one final question for you. Which of these 7 vitamins do you suspect you might be missing the most in your current diet? Let me know in the comments. Let's brainstorm solutions together. Take care of your gray matter because it's the only one you've got. Stay curious, stay proactive, and I will see you in the next video.